Hi guys, one of the things that we're struggling a lot with when we're doing our document analysis is contextualization of the document. So we're going to do a quick little review video before you practice it some more. So when we look at contextualization, these are part of our thinking critically learning targets. You need to be able to analyze documents. You need to be able to analyze them in terms of context, origin, audience, purpose, and point of view. And you need to recognize different perspectives and point of view and be able to explain their implications. So that's all part of contextualization. So take a look at this picture. What's going on?
What I can't decide.
Is this a duet?
Why won't he be the king?
Are these
I know
two
he is the king
really
I see inside.
in love with each other? Singing this duet? No. That is not what's going on in this picture. But because you might not have the historical background knowledge to know what's going on in the picture, you might make those assumptions. So you need to dig a little bit deeper. What in fact is actually happening in this picture, you would need some background information to know. You would need to know that this was during the 2016 presidential election campaign. You would need to know that this is happening on a debate stage and that this person on the left is current President Donald J. Trump, but at the time he was running for president, and this is his opponent, Hillary Clinton. And you would also need to know that it was a very divisive time, and Americans were really very divided on this particular election. And ultimately, the outcome of this election was that Donald Trump won. So you wouldn't necessarily know that just by looking at the picture if you didn't have that background information or knowledge. So that's context. Taking something out of context makes it meaningless. You need to put it in the greater picture of history and geography. So often we think about this when we think about
Previously on Prison Break.
Previously on
shows.
Desperate Housewives.
Previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Previously.
Often at the beginning of television shows, you will hear previously on, and they provide background information for viewers. How did we get here in the story? Now, these previouslys don't reveal the plot of the upcoming part of the story. You don't want to show too much, but you want to get your reader up to speed with what it is you're talking about. So another example of contextualization. I love me some Star Wars. Is the intro to Star Wars. At the very beginning of Star Wars, there's a 2-minute introduction that lays out the historical context and geographical context, in this case, of the Empire and the rebellion, and specifically in a galaxy. That's your geographical location, far, far away. So what we're trying to do here is to zoom in on geography and history of an event or a document, and sometimes both. So really kind of honing in on what's happening in time and space. So one of the ways I like to look at this is by looking at this circle diagram. Call this big C, little c context. And so you put your event in the middle. That's the immediate event happening at a particular time, or maybe it's your document and the date of that particular document. But then you start to put in the outer circle all of these things: moods and attitudes of the time period, the political situation, economic situation, geographic situation, social situation, religious situation, events leading up to as they directly relate. Now, you have to make sure that they're not just random events. They need to directly relate to that document or event you're trying to contextualize. What's going on in time around the world? Maybe zoom out a little bit. What's going on in that region, in that place? Okay, so if you were to do this for an actual event, let's talk about the fall of the Aztec Empire. Well, this is during the age of exploration in the 1400s, where Europeans are competing for resources and territory. Zooming in a little bit more, you see the arrival of Hernan Cortez as a Spanish conquistador in 1519. But all of this is also part of the Spanish Reconquista. And in Spain, the king is pushing for the expulsion of Moors and Jews from the Spanish peninsula and reinstating Catholicism in those areas. you're seeing this competition for resources and religion. You have lots of Spanish conquistadors traveling all over, particularly Latin America, including Francisco Pizarro, who's down in South America. Cortez actually wants his own fame and glory, so he is actually defying orders from his own governor of Hispaniola to go to the mainland and actually explore and ultimately conquer the Aztecs. You then have him on the mainland being invited by Montezuma into the city of Tenochtitlan. And also, you have Europeans have been there since 1492, and they brought with them diseases like smallpox and measles, which were killing many of these natives in advance of Europeans actually getting there. The disease beat them to it. So you already have an Aztec empire that's weakened, and you have Aztecs who have neighbors that don't like them because of their conquering. So you look at these guiding questions. What is happening at the time of this source? When and where was it created? And how might the timing affect the content of that source or that event? So some sentence starters when you're writing about context, you could say in the events leading up to, and to stick with our Cortez example, we might say in the events leading up to Cortez capturing Montezuma. Maybe you would say in the months prior to Cortez capturing Montezuma, you saw Cortez defy his own governor and land in Mexico. And you could also say coming out of the age of exploration, Cortez and other conquistadors were exploring Latin America for their own fame and glory. So these are some ways that you can tackle context, and I want you to start trying to do that. And let's go practice some more.